All right, here I've got kind of my second video over literal equations. I think these problems are slightly harder than the ones in the introduction video. But let's start here. So we're solving for j in this problem. So I have h minus 4 over j equals k, but we're solving it for j. Now here's kind of the I don't want to call it a party trick, but the thing that you need to know about solving for a variable in the denominator. It's almost like we got to go backwards before we go forward. So normally, if I were solving for j, I'd try to get rid of this stuff, right? But this j's in the denominator. This is really like a 1 over j, okay? And so what I want to do first is, my first goal is going to be to get it out of the denominator. So I'm going to start by multiplying each side by j. Okay, you can see that by doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to get that j in the numerator on the right side of our equation. And now if we're solving for j, our last step is going to be a lot easier to identify. All we need to do is divide by k. Anything I do on one side, I do to the other. And we're left with j equals h minus 4 all over k. Moral of the story, when you're solving for a variable in the denominator, you can start by multiplying both sides of the equation by that denominator. Here's our next problem. And this one probably could have gone in the introduction video. I don't think it's too complicated, but we have u equals, actually let's keep my same color code that I got. U equals 3b minus 2a plus 2. And what we're doing is we're solving for a. So I'm just going to try to isolate. I'm going to get rid of the other stuff. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides of our equation so that we have u minus 2 equals 3b minus 2a. Then I want to kind of get rid of this 3b term right here, so I'm going to subtract 3b from each side of our equation. And then now the left side of my equation is u minus 2 minus 3b equals negative 2a. And then our last step to get that a by itself would be divide by negative 2. So a equals u minus 2 minus 3b all over negative 2. There's a few different ways you could rearrange terms and write this, but for everything I need, this would be an acceptable answer. All right, I got two more examples. These examples are both word problems where it doesn't give you the equation, it kind of gives you words that describe the situation. So let's kind of first read this and see if we can translate this into numbers, and then we'll worry about solving for f. So it says 8 times the sum. So 8 times the sum, that would be 8 times the sum of f and 5 is k. Okay? And now once we have that, hopefully you see where I got that, we're not multiplying 8 times f or 8 times 5, we're multiplying 8 times the sum of f and 5. So I need to add those first and then multiply by 8. That's why I put the parentheses there. And then just the is k is just your equals k. But here we're solving for f, so what I'm going to do is I like to distribute first on these. There's some other ways of doing it, but I'm going to show distributing. And now we're trying to isolate the f, so I'm going to subtract 40 from each side. And let's see, we've got 8f equals k minus 40. And then lastly, I'm going to divide by 8 on each side. And f equals k minus 40 all over 8. That's an answer I would accept. You could write that a little differently, but I don't care about it right now. Let's jump to our last example, and this is kind of the same as the last one. 1/3 the difference, which that's going to mean subtract, of w and 3 is h. So this is going to really be a similar structure to the last problem. So we're going 1/3 times the difference of, it says aw, we can just say w, and 3 is h. So let's do this just like the last problem. I'm going to start by, actually, let's use a different strategy here. Instead of distributing first, one thing we could do is we could get rid of this. I could start by getting rid of this 1/3, and my way of doing that, our inverse operation of multiplying by 1/3 would be to multiply by 3. Okay, those are inverses. They would end up with a 1. They're multiplicative reciprocals is the fancy term for that. But anything I do to one side, I do to the other. And we are left with w minus 3 equals 3h. And then my last step here would just be to add 3 to both sides to isolate that w. So we have w equals 3h plus 3. If you'd gone the other route of distributing first, your answer might take a little bit of a different form here, but if you did it correctly, it would be equivalent. And that's really all I've got for our intermediate video on literal equations. I think the more practice you do, the better off you'll be.